Hello everyone and welcome back to show 3. This is supposed to be the first proper show after the first 2 pilots of Camera Creations, still being hosted at Whatever Works, but that should make no difference to anyone really, except if you're trying to find it in a podcatcher you might get confused. So at the moment, head for our Whatever Works podcast feed in podcatchers and you'll catch it up. It's the very last day of July 2025 today, and I'm joined this week by Chris Clayton, who's returned from the Far East. So we'll come back to you in a second, Chris. And we've also got Joe Hickey, who is not been to the Far East as far as I know. And Ian, who was here with us on the last show as well. We're all back here again, except Chris Kelly couldn't make it. So we'll do a little bit of a catch up in a minute with where people are at, and hear from Chris about his Far East travels, hopefully, and some interesting insights into that in terms of photography. But during the meantime, we'll just let you know that you can pick up the details of what we're talking about today at the Whatever Works website, which is whateverworks.works, and links to anything that we might be putting in the show today should be in the podcatchers for you as well. But just don't forget, for the time being, it's at whateverworks.works and Whatever Works in your podcatcher. So, Ian, can you first of all introduce a topic that we were talking about off air during the time we were not recording, about the problem with an audio podcast dealing with images and analysing images and talking about images when no one can see them, and a possible solution?
Yeah, absolutely, Ted. So I think we spoke about in the last pod was a lot of evolution from us coming together was moving from cameras, moving from phones to cameras, from taking pictures. And the idea of today was to share maybe some still life, comparing what a phone can take compared to a full frame camera. And it was just my thoughts on putting those into the show notes and together, that maybe people aren't going to be able to see those differences, and maybe a video format. I'll preface this with, I've definitely got a face for radio as opposed to video, but I think it might be useful to be able to, as we're talking through them, maybe share the images on screen, that people can actually have the option if they want to watch it on YouTube, as well as maybe listen to it as an audio podcast.
Now, my thoughts immediately go to Joe, because Joe is already doing this with Sam every Sunday night, and I look to Joe to see if that is in any way feasible, if it's too much trouble to be bothering with, or I've never done podcasting except for the way that we do it, audio. Joe?
I mean, it's probably doable. We do it through a program called StreamYard. We stream live onto YouTube, but something I'll have to look into. It's probably doable. But do we want to do it just for this one thing, or are we going to be having photos up on screen often? I don't know. I guess we probably are, being Camera Creations.
That
would be my only concern. Sorry to jump in. Would that be like a focal point of the podcast? Would be sharing photographs and discussing them? Otherwise, with the video side of it, would be really worthwhile if it's only going to be used for sort of 3 or 4 minutes out of the hour.
There is other benefits though, because you can share articles when we talk about news. But yeah.
Or we could have some online place where everyone knows where to get to, so that prior to recording we dump the photographs that we're going to be talking about into that place, whether it be on Flickr or Google Drive or wherever it is. So people, if they're really interested enough, can then, while they're listening, go to that link on our web space and look at the photographs as we're doing it. I mean, it's not as if it's not as if we're doing the podcast live. it's recorded, and so people can click a link later on. I don't know. It's just I'm just thinking aloud, really.
I think that would be the way to go potentially. I don't know what the other chaps think, but yeah, I think that would be preference.
I think for my own listening habits, I tend to listen to everything through YouTube. So if there was a video feed, and when something visual presents itself, then you can quickly look at the phone and then see, and then go back to just an audio only thing. It might work, but that's just my own way of consuming podcasts is through YouTube.
I guess it depends on how much work is involved, doesn't it? And how much cost might be involved. At the moment, we're doing this free. Well, not free, but included in what I'm already paying. And if we start to incur costs and have to go off and do training to work out how to do it and blah, 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 at some point, someone might say, well, hang on a minute, this was supposed to be a kind of casual podcast and bit of fun. Or perhaps this is something that we can look at moving towards in the future sometime, once we're kind of on our feet and moving forward and no longer perhaps under the umbrella of Whatever Works, for example. Yeah?
Yeah. I think it could be, for me personally, it could be quite a good learning curve of how to do it and what we could produce. And again, it might be getting some feedback and maybe maybe a fourth pilot or something like that we could try and see if anyone gets any value. But for me personally, it would be maybe quite interesting to learn how to do it. But
Yeah, on YouTube, I don't see why you shouldn't, because, as I said earlier, Joe and Sam are doing that every week, and the infrastructure to do that, I don't know. We'll have to look into. But yes, you're right, Ian. We could do a pilot. We could do a video podcast pilot and give it a go, like we did on the 500th show of PSC, and then give it a go. On the 500th show of PSC, all we did basically was to cook up this big Hangouts. It was called Hangouts at the time. Google Meet now, I suppose it would be. And it was just done live. We're not suggesting this will be done live, but I don't know. Food for thought, I think, going forward. So hang on to those ideas, and we'll talk about it in time to come, and how we might go about doing that. In the meantime, let's catch up with the panel. And Chris, I'm very interested to hear first from you and your trip, and great to hear that you're back. And it's been great to see in the MeWe group lots and lots of your images that you've been shooting. The vast majority of them absolutely lovely. Tell us all about it.
Cheers, Ted. Yeah, so I had 5 weeks in Southeast Asia, a week in Singapore, 2.5 weeks in Thailand, 5 days in Kuala Lumpur, and then a week back in Singapore. So 5 weeks total, and I had a really, really fantastic holiday. But it was a family holiday, so unlike last year in Tokyo, I went with a friend, a photography enthusiast like myself, just only for photographs. This trip was a little bit trickier to have dedicated trips out just for photos, so it was kind of bring the camera along and see what I can get along the way. And I was really happy. I got a lot of different pictures. I did notice that what I was drawn to was mainly cityscapes and landscapes and long exposures. That's really what I was enthusiastic about taking photos of. So there's a lot of tripod carrying, and a lot of stopping, and my partner was very patient with me while I set up a tripod in the middle of Kuala Lumpur with a million tourists around us while I took my 20-minute exposure of the Petronas Towers, which actually ended up being one of my favourite shots of the trip, so it was well worth it from my point of view. So very grateful to my partner for accommodating me. But yeah, it was a really good trip, thanks, Ted.
Did you get into any strife with any local people for doing what you were doing, or were they all very understanding and happy for you to do it?
No issues. I did quite a bit of drone photography in Thailand. Singapore is kind of out of the question. There's quite strict laws about that kind of thing. In Thailand, drones are normally the thing that would cause problems. I've had problems in London with drones. But they're very lax, very happy people, so there was no issues at all, and it was really chilled. So yeah,
great.
No issues at all. Yeah.
I was particularly drawn to the street photographs, as I always am. And one of the ones you posted was a group of people who were gathered around these guys who'd set themselves up to just take people's photographs, and it was just amazing, wasn't it? That they were prepared to pay money to this guy just to when they're all carrying their own phones to take their pictures anyway, but they're paying someone else to do it.
I'd never seen anything like it. That was in Kuala Lumpur, and we got to the Twin Towers, and there was just on the periphery of like the tourist area, there was probably about 20 or 30 people, and they were just shouting "photo, photo," and they had these absurd kind of rigs with all these LED lights, and it was all centered around a phone. I couldn't tell what phone it was at the time, but I was saying to my partner, I was like, who would pay for that? Everyone's got their own phone.
Yeah.
And as it got dark, a lot of people were paying, and I was quite bemused. But I did speak to one of the chaps that was doing it, and he had a Xiaomi 15 Ultra, and he said that was the phone of choice for these guys. And they were getting some good photos, to be fair. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a great camera on that phone, 1-inch sensor. But, yeah, they were really going for it, and it's not cheap. I think it worked out to be about 20 or 30 quid.
That's not cheap.
For one photograph? Wow.
No, so that's how they get you. So the price that they advertise or they shout at you is for one photograph, which was, I think it was about £1 or something. So they get you in with that, and then they sort of upsell you with more and more photographs.
Right.
Think about 10, 20 photos, and then they sort of get the family in and do groups and do single shots. So they got a good sales patter going on. I can't say I would have partaken myself, but a lot of people did.
But you're also not. You don't need to have the Far East to take these lovely photographs, because some of those techniques you have been using in Brighton, and you do regularly in Brighton, and we see those. And apart from the Far East setting, it's very similar in style, isn't it?
Yeah, you can. The long exposure fine art stuff that I really like to do, you can do anywhere with pretty much anything. But obviously when you get to a new location, I mean, I've taken the same photographs in Brighton 100 times. I still like to do it. Mm-hmm. But when you get to a new location, it really gets you going. You get excited about what you could do. And I get so excited about getting that image and getting back onto a laptop and seeing what I can do in the edit. That's probably the most excitement I have is opening up in Lightroom and then you can see the potential from a shot. Which in my head, I have like an idea of what I want to do when I take the photograph, but it never really looks like it does in camera. So it's all done in the edit for me.
Right, yeah, which we'll zoom in on a topic regarding on one show. It's in our list of topics, the whole kind of software and post-editing thing. So we will definitely come back to do that. But great to hear you back, and have you back on the show. Okay, Ian, tell us about what's happened with you for the last couple of weeks.
It's been a bit fragmented, to be honest. I was shooting at Goodwood at the Festival of Speed. Was planning 3 days, only got one. And last weekend I was at the Excel Docklands. They had the Formula E, the electric racing, which is in and outside of the Excel Centre, which is quite unique. And again, unfortunately, the few challenges health-wise, family-wise, that I had to cut it short a little bit and rush back to support. It's been okay on that side. I guess when you have a plan of doing a couple of days photography, you have an idea of some of the shots you'd like to get, and maybe you feel like you missed out on those. But on the whole, it's been pretty good. I've got pretty much a month gap now between any motorsport photography. So I was in London, and to say that did inspire me for so much of what you could do street photography wise.
Hurrah!
But it's also, that's where the thoughts of having something small as say my Nikon Z8 is is too chunky to be used. I think everyone could see that you've got a camera, so it's a bit of a challenge. And also, I've been trying to work my way a little bit around Photoshop as well. So trying to do some graphics work and bits and pieces. So just for some reels and something for Instagram of some of the shots I've been taking. So I've been trying to learn things in Photoshop, which is lots of YouTube videos and running in the background, trying to copy what someone's doing. But yeah, happy with some of the results on that. And again, it's quite a good learning thing. The only thing is probably my age is that once I learn how to do it, then I forget again. Next time I want to do the same thing again, I'll have to watch the same video. But
yeah, I understand that completely. One of the things that I used to do street photography in the film days in London, and you say you can't have a big camera, but with a long lens, I used to find that was just absolutely fine. You know, I used to use a Nikon body with a 135mm lens or something, usually a prime, a fast prime, and I would just sit there and I would snap away. And people were so far away that they didn't see what you were up to anyway. There was also at that time a lens housing you could get, which had a mirror in it. I don't know if you can still get these, but you look as though you're facing straight ahead of yourself, and actually you're taking photographs to your left or to your right. Has anyone seen one of those recently?
No, I've never heard of that.
It's quite funny. That would have been about, in the mid-'80s or something like that, I would guess. But yeah, that was good. And Goodwood, Ian, I used to live in Singleton, as most people know, which is the next village along from Goodwood. And so the chaos of Goodwood 3 times a year, I'm very, very used to. And some of those photographs that you were producing from Goodwood just brought it all back to me, and they're very nice indeed. So well done. And yeah, I'm sure we're really interested to see what happens with your street photography in London. For sure, so keep that coming. Joe, what have you been up to for the last fortnight?
Well, before I get into my lack of activity, I think street photography could definitely be a subject for an episode. Cause
yeah.
I see Chris has been to Tokyo, very jealous. I'd love to go there for street photography.
It spoils you, Joe. That's the problem.
Yeah, good. I see that. I see you've gone off it.
Yeah, because there's nothing. It's close to Tokyo. Nothing.
Yeah, I'd love to go.
It was, it was just perfect, it's got that aesthetic with the neon lights, it's got the people and the fashion, it's got everything. And then you come back to England, you're like,
Well, you could head down to Soho and Chinatown.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's quite a cool place to go, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And going back to your longer lens, with street photography, I like that compression you get as well.
Yeah.
When you're shooting so that always comes out nicely. So I haven't actually done much with my camera other than a bit of videography for my channel. Mm-hmm. I did an unboxing of a Nokia 3210, a bit of nostalgia for people there. But yeah, I haven't really taken any pictures other than the one I quickly did before we started this episode. I did vlog my Wingfest. I went to Wingfest on Saturday, which is a great day out, but that was on a phone. Sorry.
Right, okay. We'll leave that out then.
Yeah,
we will come back later in the show, though, to what you were just saying about comparing a few photographs. And even though our listeners can't see that what we're talking about, hopefully we can audio describe what we're doing and so forth. Quickly, before we get to the news section, I wanted to just say that I continue to lack enthusiasm, mainly because I can't really afford to buy the gear I want to buy to get back to the aforementioned stuff I used to love doing, because I'm just really fussy and it has to be just right, and I need to find a Nikon D810 or 610 or something, and I a good lens, and until I've got that in place, I just don't find that I'm enthused about going out to do anything or staying in to do anything really, because I don't like the equipment I've got. I've got a few cameras, but I just don't like them. I want a full frame camera, and that's where I'll be jumping back in and doing something more positive. Talking of which, jumping into the news, Chris, one of the news stories we picked up on is this new Sony RX1R Mark III, which has popped up in the feeds and what have you. And I think I saw that you pricked your ears up, didn't you? And would you like to say anything about it?
Well, the price pricked my ears up.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
I don't know if you know how much it cost, Ted, but
$5,000, isn't it?
Yeah, it's, I think it's 4,600 in the UK. We don't get the tariffs, so I know America got stung a bit harder. But yeah, this is a fixed lens, and the lens is, I think, 15 years old, 35mm f2 size lens, which was on the very first Sony RX1, I think about 12, 13 years ago. And there was a big gap. The second one came out, made some slight improvements. So the third one's just come out. It's got the same 61 megapixel sensor that my camera has, the A7R5. Fantastic sensor, so there's no problems with that. But this is a £5,200 camera. It doesn't have IBIS, which I think for me is essential for a street camera, which is very clearly the target market for a fixed lens compact camera. It doesn't have IBIS, doesn't have a tilt screen, another deal breaker. And the RX1R2 did have a tilt screen, and they've taken that away. Not sure why. Maybe because the EVF takes up some of the space, which the second one had a collapsible EVF, and this one's got a fixed EVF. I'm not sure if that's made a difference.
Okay.
But the lack of a tilt screen, the lack of IBIS, the lens, by all accounts, can't get close to resolving the 61 megapixel sensor. So the gains in the sensor upgrade isn't really being realised because the lens is too old, and the autofocus is improved, but again, an old lens with old motors, it can't really keep up with the Sony autofocus. So I'm just not seeing what the value is when you could get a Leica Q3. I know Ian had one of those. For a similar kind of money. I think second hand you can get it for about $4,000, or a Q3 43 for about $4.5 second hand. I just don't know why anyone would buy this camera. Unless Ian or someone else here who might be more into street or the idea of a compact camera.
I know who it's for.
But,
I know exactly who it's for. People who don't have a clue about photography and have a lot of money.
Well, the second one for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's become a trend, isn't it? The compact especially because of Fuji, like, because the X100 Mark IV.
Well, the 5 and the 6. The 5 really kicked off, but I know the 6 carried on.
They were going for more second hand.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous just because it exploded on social media, and people were buying them who really aren't going to be using them to their full. But yeah, it was just mad. I think that trend, and that's what Sony's thinking about maybe.
I think they reacted. They cobbled this together from off-the-shelf Sony parts, and they haven't finessed it, in my opinion. I think it's a rush job.
Yeah. So, Ian, when you had your Leica, what did you use it for? Was it all street?
It was various stuff, and I'm still regretting getting rid of it. It was an absolute pleasure to actually use. It was taking the pictures was a pleasurable experience, even if they weren't totally fantastic. But the feel you got from the images were above and beyond. And again, for someone relatively new to photography, I could definitely tell the difference. The challenge with the Leica is that the lens is still quite big, and I think that's maybe where the appeal of the Sony is, that it's not pocketable, but it's smaller. But I read various reviews and comments, and it seems very soulless. It's a lens, and they've got a sensor, and they bolted this together without. It's not the sort of the same kind of way that Fuji or Leica would put a camera together. I'm not sure if there's any sort of soul to it or anything like that, but yeah, I would. I did have the Fuji, which I definitely didn't get on with at all. Maybe because I'm not old school, but I felt the quality wasn't there for what I was wanting, and I'd probably want I want everything. I'd like to get a Leica back, but I don't think that's going to happen in the short term. But having a full frame, I think, would make a lot of difference to me. But I wouldn't run. I wouldn't go anywhere near the Sony, I must confess.
This is where the Fuji fell down for me, because the lovely as the gear was, and I loved the hybrid viewfinder on the X100 series and the X Pro series. It wasn't full frame, and they've missed full frame out altogether. They go from APS-C and then go straight to medium format. There's nothing at full frame, which is just bizarre. And when you hear the Fuji people being interviewed about that, they just don't seem interested. They're not doing it, and end of story, which I think is a shame. But what Fuji are doing is trying their hand with this. Half, I think we might have touched on this before, the half frame thingy in kind of portrait, the Fujifilm X half. And to me, the hardware looks kind of decent enough, not to the quality of the X100, and it looks a bit kind of quirky and odd and dumpy. But any thoughts, anyone, on the half frame format, which has been tried and tried and tried? I don't know. It just seems a bit of a quirk to me.
One thing that's interesting about that for me is that you can pretend like there's a film in there, so you can't finish taking shots until you've completed. So you'll put a set number of 30 shots, say. You can't finish until them 30 shots are done.
Yeah.
I think that's quite interesting, but it's a gimmick, really.
Yeah, I think it's an overpriced gimmick. The half frame where all your shots are in portrait mode, I mean, no thank you, that's terrible. A 1-inch sensor. How much isn't it like £800 or something? It's
700, I think.
700.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 1-inch sensor. There's a plethora of Chinese phones that have a 1-inch sensor. Plus, you get a phone.
Yeah, and I guess if I have one of these, I'd probably use it upright, so it was landscape.
Yeah, exactly. You're fixing the whole object.
You've got the fidget lever on the side as well.
Yeah, which doesn't even do anything.
Yeah.
It's a bit of fun. I don't like these artificial constraints with the film, and you can only take 30 pictures, or people say, just take a small memory card so you can only shoot 50 images. I don't really see the point.
Yeah.
Just for a reason.
Bit of fun. Someone's put a new link in the recording notes here. Whoever it is, hold up your hand.
You probably can't see my hand, but it's me. I thought this sort of flows quite on from the Fuji half. I was watching a video, came up on my feed the other day. It's this Escura Instant Snap, which is a bizarre thing. It's like a little Perspex window, and it's got a very small sensor in it, and you can use it as a camera. There's the YouTube link in there. But it is absolutely terrible. The quality, I think, is at 1.3 megapixels ultimately. But again, as a fun idea of actually having the viewfinder through this Perspex and framing through an actual, looks like a bit like a Lego frame. To frame the picture and then shoot it. It was something amused me, and again, it was probably just flowing on from the Fuji half of trying to have something fun to shoot with. I find a lot, especially in the motor racing side, that a lot of people are using instant cameras and film cameras to take pictures, and it's a sort of thing of you have all your expensive kit that you're using professionally, but you have this cheap 24 exposure film camera that takes really awful pictures, and you use that at the same time. So I guess this is one of those that I'm sure some influencer somewhere is using in a professional environment.
Yeah, just a proof of concept to say, I can. But yeah, the whole kind of Fuji instant film and the Polaroid thing is very, very back in with the kids apparently, and certainly in Japan. In Japan, they've gone nuts for it. All the youngsters, and they're sticking their little pictures all in their fridges and giving them to their friends, and it's just a big thing. And the likes of Fuji particularly, and Panasonic are jumping in on it. And if you go to Amazon, you can see a range of different devices that do that stuff, and that, I suppose someone is trying to inject the fun back into it, and even though it's digital, it's like fun. Some of those Fujifilm instant cameras are actually becoming quite capable. That you can change aperture on some of them, for example, and just kind of a bit interesting, I suppose. But yeah, not what we're here for. I'll tell you what we are here for is outrageously, ridiculously huge sensors for cameras. Canon has debuted a 410 megapixel full frame camera sensor for the first time. And yes, the bottom line of this story is that it's not any time soon going to be finding its way into consumer products. It's designed for industry and medical uses and what have you. But it's an incredible feat, I think, that they've made this this sensor which got so many pixels on it. Any thoughts on that, anyone?
It would definitely help me frame and crop in a bit better.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you could just get one lens and just crop in all the time, couldn't you?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what kind of computer you'd need to put that into Photoshop.
Anyway, so that's out there anyway. Right, okay, let's get to the meat of the show. And what we said, what Joe said on the last show was, why don't we challenge each other with a still life kind of theme, which is kind of a bit by the board, to be honest. He's the only one that's done that. But everyone did chuck in some photographs of comparisons between a photograph within reasonable bounds of one that was taken with a camera and one that was taken with a phone. So talking of the Far East, Chris, would you like to talk to us about your two images you put in the notes here and lead us through?
Yeah, so this is probably where the frustrations of not being able to see the image might come into play. But so I've taken a photo on the outskirts of Tokyo. It's quite a well-known kind of Instagram location of like a classic Japanese scene on the corner of a street. You've got the neon lights, you've got the painted streets at night time. And I took the image with my iPhone and with my camera. You can see on the iPhone one, this is the trouble with the iPhone is everything is always perfectly exposed. So you just pick up the phone, you point it, and that's obviously what people want. But the trouble with that is you're going to get issues with sort of, you can't get the contrast that you want. You can't. It's hard to sort of it's hard to augment the image as you would want. But with the phone, with the camera image, you can see there, I've already got in my head that this is a very high contrast scene with the neon lights and the dark, shadowy streets. So all I've done is expose the camera just for the highlights of the image, so you can see that the neon lights are the only things that are exposed properly.
Did you take a spot on that?
No, I just used the histogram in the camera.
Right.
You kind of get an idea. Okay. You've got Zebra clipping on the Sony, so it will show you if anything's overexposed.
Mm-hmm.
So I just keep it. As soon as it starts to clip, I stop there. You do get a bit more than what it says, because the exposure and the histogram is done from the JPEG, not from the RAW, so you get an extra stop.
Okay.
But once you get into Lightroom or Photoshop, you'll get more than what it says on the histogram and camera. But yeah, so I've done that in camera, knowing that I'm going to bring all the shadows back in the edit, and all the highlights will be saved.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see in the phone image, it's just a totally perfectly exposed, very, very flat image.
It's tried to make it like daylight though, hasn't it? It's ruined. It's ruined the atmosphere of it.
It has. Yeah. So I did post this image to the PSC Photos group, edited, and I basically done what you said. I brought the darkness, I brought the nighttime back to the scene. Because, as I say, it's tried to make daytime, tried to turn nighttime into day. And this is the issue with phone and phone photos, but also the issue is if you go from a phone to a camera, you might try and get that image in camera with the camera where you're trying to expose it perfectly, but it's impossible. There's no way you can take one image and have it exposed properly because you're going to blow out all the highlights if you bring the shadows out. So you have to, that's kind of a learning curve, is when you move from a phone to a camera, is having to sort of expose with edit in mind. Because you can see that the iPhone's taken, I don't know how many images it takes, 5, 6 photos, and it puts them all together, doesn't it, to get the exposure.
Yeah. But
you take this Pro Raw, Chris? Is that Pro Raw on the iPhone?
Every photo I take is Pro Raw, but as you know, they still process the crap out of it, even in Pro Raw.
But
it's amazing how much dynamic range you get, but yeah, they do process it Pro Raw.
But if you weren't using RAW, perhaps you could adjust the settings on the phone to tell the phone that you didn't want it to make it like daylight. So pull down the EV values or...
You could, but there's no point because it's doing this exposure stacking anyway, so it's capturing all the shadows and all the highlights in camera. But the image you get out of the camera is this flat image, which might be quite jarring for someone that moves to a camera from the phone, and then they're going to have to end up with very different results out of camera.
So much better. Your camera shot is so much better than the other one.
Yeah, I should have put up the edited images as well, so I got them quite close.
We'll try and I'll try and put these up somewhere so that people listening to the show, we can kind of point to them if you'll allow it.
You can see the detail in the camera image. It's mind-blowingly better.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
There's a lot of noise. I know this is a compressed image you're looking at on the phone, but there's tons of noise because the tiny sensor in the phone's cranked up the ISO. And even then, it's done a good job. You know, for a phone, it's done an amazing job.
I think Ian mentioned a word that comes to mind here as well, like the phones take the soul out of images.
Absolutely.
For me.
Yeah. It's too perfect. Like when you open a phone camera in Lightroom, the histogram's absolutely perfect. It exposes the image, you know, as a machine would, but not as a person would.
Yeah. Very sad.
There's so much more depth in the. Again, it looks to me. It looks like a 3D representation of the building, and you can imagine it a lot more than you could do with, as I think you said, Ted. The phone image, but it looks very, very flat.
It does. If you look at the shade over the doorway, bottom centre there, you're quite right. On the top one, it looks like you can feel the depth of it, whereas on the phone one, it's just flat. It's just, you know,
the shadow's gone, isn't it?
Yeah, the whole thing is just screwed. So that's a good example, really, of the difference between the two. Joe, you followed the rules and did a still life, and it was a very quick example, but it would be interesting to just compare your two in light of what we've just been saying.
Yeah, so the phone one's, strangely, the white balance is well off. It's put a lot of warmth into it. And yeah, I mean, it was a very quick snap. They're quite similar shots, but again, that depth you can see more, I think, with the camera, and it's a lot cleaner as well. I think there's a bit of noise with the phone shot there.
Yeah, I noticed tons of noise in this. I spotted it straight away. If you look like around the lenses on the phone, it's quite noticeable. What phone was that?
This is the Edge 60 Pro. I've just unboxed it from my motivator.
What was the
photo? Oh, sorry, the phone I took the photo. What an idiot. The Samsung S25 Ultra.
Oh, so it's no slouch.
No slouch. I mean, it's got some detail there. It's a nice shot, but when you're comparing it to the full frame camera,
it's just how bad it is, to be honest.
Yeah, and this was your full frame Lumix, was it?
Yeah, my S5 Mark II. Yeah. Both in auto, just quickly snapping, and they're both the JPEGs.
Yeah. Ian, you posted some shots from Goodwood or elsewhere, but to do with motor racing. Do you want to lead us through yours?
Yeah, I thought I would do a bit of a theme, so I took an image this afternoon, just an overhead of a Lego racing car, just so everything's on point with the branding. But yeah, I used the... I took the first two indoors and the second two outdoors, just because it was ramping up the ISO a little bit, and but to me, looking on my phone, it's perfectly adequate. Obviously, there is a lot more detail in the camera than the phone. You have this fuzziness around those. I tried to use the similar sort of settings. So I tried it in manual mode it was the Magic V3, and tried it in manual mode to try and match as much as I could do the detail. But again, to me, it's sort of, for me, I'm not used to taking still life and things like that. So it wasn't it was a quick test between the two. But I did post. It was a bit of a labour of love thing. The two final pictures were from Excel last weekend, and I had this thing about I was on a gantry or wooden slats, and underneath there was the track, and I wanted to catch the car going through the image through the gap, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which you had the first practice session, which was an hour, and I was there with my camera through this slat, looking like a complete idiot trying to get this shot, and just firing up thousands of shots. And I thought I'd try to do the same thing with my phone, but the reason I put that in was just really, I think it's probably for me the camera. Yes, all of the detail and the depth of the picture, but also the speed and the focusing is a completely different world on a camera compared to a phone.
Mm-hmm.
But as say the shot I got, I mean, it was stupid settings to get it. It was 60 frames a second and in JPEG only, to try and get something in focus. Whereas I was shooting off with the phone. I probably did take a couple of hundred pictures to see if I could get anything where it was focusing on the car, but I struggled a little bit.
And the
V3 as well. Sorry.
Yeah.
And the point is, I think, is that anyone looking to try and do something like that with a phone is going to very, very likely fail and not get anything like they were looking for. But then I suppose if someone was looking artistically to do stuff like this, they would be trying to use a camera anyway. I guess most people wouldn't be trying to do this with their Edge 60 Pro or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting
I think
stuff.
There was something posted on the group today by, I think it was Ahmed about phones versus cameras again, but it's I think the phones are good enough for people seeing on screen and a good representation, but as soon as you want to take that step, it is a massive step between the difference in quality, and especially if you were ever thinking of printing and blowing it up to any sort of size, that's really where the camera comes into it.
But even just
go on.
Sorry.
And when you come to edit as well, the raw files, there's so much more scope for you with a camera's raw file than a phone.
Yeah.
So much more.
Very interesting.
I remember taking a picture there was a problem with the iPhone. I think you mentioned it, Chris, that it halos to do the sharpening. And I got a fantastic shot. I really loved it of a beach and the guy walking with his dog on the beach, and the colours were really, really good. And when I got it off and got it onto my computer, you could see the white halo around the image, and it's like, I really wish I'd had my camera with me rather than my phone. But
I'm not sure if that haloing is due to the exposure stacking that it's doing or the sharpening, but it's, as soon as you start moving sliders around on the Pro Raw image of an iPhone, those halos start becoming quite obvious. And it's a real problem with the iPhone. I don't know if it's with all cameras, but the iPhone, I do notice it.
Very interesting to compare those. As I say, with everyone's permission, I will find a way to put these up somewhere so that when people are listening to this, they'll be able to look at what we're talking about. And we will, in the shows to come down the road, talk about the problem of a audio podcast, which is kind of relying to some degree on images and looking at images and stuff. So we shall consider that as we go forward. In the meantime, thank you guys for joining me today. And we've had a nice chat about that. We shall talk in the coming days and weeks about trying to do something about the aforementioned and video or YouTube. Talk to Joe and possibly Sam and try and find out what we can do with that if we want to do anything at all. And we'll come back in 2 weeks' time and have another. I don't know if anyone wants to throw out, like Joe did last time, some sort of challenge for the next show. But I suppose, any thoughts on that, anyone?
I'll leave it to someone else this time.
I don't know. I'll always find something to go and take a picture of, but I don't know whether the sort of stuff I like to do would be...
Okay.
Well, that's the point of it. It's a challenge. It'll be a challenge for me. Let's throw it out there. I'll give it a go.
I don't know. It's architectural kind of stuff is what I've been into lately, so any kind of architecture, I think.
Bridges.
Oh, cool.
Bridges.
Buildings.
We used to do when I used to read the photographic magazines. Every week there was a topic like bridges or trains or something, and everyone went off for the next month to take the most interesting photographs they could. So we could have a kind of theme based thing every week if we wanted to, or every show if we wanted to. But as I say, we are evolving as we go, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time to evolve some more. Thank you for listening, for anyone that's got this far. Don't forget that whateverworks.works is where you'll find links to all the stuff we've been talking about today, and in your podcatcher, hopefully. But don't try and find it under Camera Creations. It is still under Whatever Works, and that's where you'll find it. And on the whateverworks.works website. So thanks for listening, as I say. Back in 2 weeks' time, and we'll see you then. Cheers.
Bye.